Okay, good morning. I'd like to start today by saying a few words, and I'll hand over to the Defence Minister, Jonathan Coleman, followed by the Chief of Defence Force, Lieutenant General Rhys Jones, to say a few words, and then of course we'll take any questions that you might have. It was with enormous sadness and a heavy heart that I learned yesterday that 3 brave New Zealand soldiers had been killed in the northeast of Bamyan province in Afghanistan. Corporal Luke Tamatia, aged 31, Lance Corporal Jacinda Baker, aged 26, and Private Richard Harris, aged 21, were killed when their vehicle was hit by a massive improvised explosive device, IED, northwest of Doabe on the road to Ramiro at about 9:20 AM Afghanistan time yesterday. Lieutenant General Rhys Jones will give you more details about the 3 soldiers shortly. This latest incident comes almost 2 weeks to the day after Lance Corporals Prali Dara and Rory Malone were killed in action in the heavy firefight in the northeast region of Bamyan province. Our thoughts and condolences are with the families and friends of those killed during this incredibly difficult time as they try to come to terms with the enormous grief. Our thoughts are also with the courageous members of the New Zealand Provincial Reconstruction Team currently serving in Afghanistan as they try to deal with the blows they have endured over recent weeks with the tragic loss of 5 of their teammates. The death of these brave young soldiers yesterday brings the total number of New Zealand soldiers who have lost their lives in Afghanistan to 10. Each and every one of these soldiers leaves behind a family and loved ones. I'd like to reassure them that their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and they will always be remembered by all New Zealanders. These soldiers have selflessly given their lives in the effort to restore stability to the Bamyan province. The flags on the Parliament forecourt are once again flying at half-mast today in recognition of the ultimate sacrifice these brave young soldiers have made serving their country. They will also fly at half-mast on the days of their funerals. As previously stated, it is New Zealand's intention to be withdrawing our contingent from Bamyan in 2013, and that exact date is still to be determined. Ministers have for some weeks been considering options for an orderly withdrawal from the region during 2013. While decisions still have to be finalised, it's likely it will take place in the earlier part of 2013 rather than the later. But I would add that the timing of that withdrawal has not been affected by the loss of the 5 soldiers that we've endured in the last 2 weeks. Our commitment to the international efforts in Afghanistan has not changed. Our presence in the country, since we first sent troops there in 2003, has made a substantial difference to the lives of people living there. On that note, I'll hand over to the Minister of Defence to say a few words, and then the CDF.
Thank you. I'd just like to reiterate the Prime Minister's comments. It's absolutely gutting to be here so soon after holding media conferences and attending funerals related to the previous 2 deaths of our service people in Afghanistan. I just want to acknowledge the contribution of these 3 soldiers who have died in this IED attack last night. Certainly our people serve absolutely selflessly in Afghanistan. It's a high-risk environment, and these people have represented New Zealand extremely well, but tragically the high risk of that environment has been realised yesterday. Our thoughts go out to the 3 families of the deceased. This is the most terrible day that could be ever visited on loved ones of a service person. My thoughts are also with the members of Crib 20 in Afghanistan. I know this will hit those people there very, very hard, and I just want to reiterate that they have the government's full support. They've been doing a great job over a long period in Bamyan, but certainly this is a very, very dark day. Just to reiterate the Prime Minister's comments there, this doesn't change our overall view on the work that our people have done there, the work that they're doing, and the path ahead over the months ahead. As the PM said, we've been doing some work on what will happen during 2013. We always knew it was going to be a very difficult environment, but our thoughts today are chiefly with those 3 service people, and especially with their loved ones and the members of Crib 20 and the wider New Zealand Defence Force.
before I provide you with more detail on the 3 service people killed in Afghanistan and outline a little bit of the details surrounding the incident, I wish to extend my sincere condolences to their families. I know that today's loss will have a massive impact on these families, as well as their wider military family, and I'm sure it will impact on New Zealand. Though Afghanistan is a long way away from here, the service New Zealanders in Afghanistan do is brought close at these times by the connections with the people, family, friends and colleagues, not just those lost, but also those remaining and those who continue to work at hand. This news will also create fresh anguish for the families of our other service people killed in Afghanistan, so our thoughts are with them today as well. It's with great sadness that I can now reveal a little more information about the 3 soldiers who were killed. Corporal Luke Tamatia, aged 31, Lance Corporal Jacinda Baker, aged 26, and Private Richard Harris, aged 21. They deployed with the New Zealand Provincial Reconstruction Team in Bamiyan, Afghanistan in April 2012. All 3 were from the 2nd 1st Battalion Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment based in Germany. Corporal Luke Douglas Tamatia joined the New Zealand Army in February 2000 and was posted to the 1st Battalion Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment in Lincoln. He deployed to Timor-Leste in 2001, to the Solomon Islands in 2003, and to Sumatra to help with the tsunami in 2005. Corporal Tamatia also had previously deployed to Afghanistan in 2007, and he was posted to 2nd 1st Battalion in 2007. Corporal Tamatia was promoted to Lance Corporal in September 2005 and to Corporal in June 2008. Lance Corporal Jacinda Francis Elise Baker joined the New Zealand Army as a medic and was posted to Burnham Regional Support Company in April 2007. Lance Corporal Baker was posted to 2nd 1st Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment in December 2007 and deployed to the Solomon Islands in 2010. Lance Corporal Baker received the Chief of Army Commendation in 2011 for her professionalism and courage during exercise Southern Warrior in June 2008. Lance Corporal Baker was promoted to Lance Corporal in July 2008. Private Richard Lee Harris joined the New Zealand Army in February 2009 and was posted to 2nd 1st AR. Private Harris had previously deployed to Timor in 2009 and between 2009 and 2010. On behalf of the entire New Zealand Defence Force, I again extend my deepest condolences and sympathies to the families, colleagues and friends of the personnel killed in the service of their country. We are deeply saddened by this loss. The Defence Force is working to return our fallen soldiers to their families as quickly as possible. We are providing support to their families as well as support to the families and loved ones currently serving in Afghanistan and to our units and personnel back in New Zealand. On behalf of the families, I'd ask media to give them the time and space they need at this time to come to terms with this news and to grieve. I'd now like to provide an overview of events as we currently understand them. On Sunday morning, Afghanistan time, on the 19th of August, a convoy of Humvees, known as Kiwi Team 4, were returning to Forward Operation Base Ramiro. They were going to Ramiro to take one of their patrol members to visit the doctor as he had a medical problem. At 0921, the last vehicle in the patrol was hit by an improvised explosive device northwest of Doabi on the road to Ramiro. I'm advised that it was a massive explosion that instantly killed all 3 people on board. The remaining people on the patrol secured the location and awaited support of helicopters from ISAF that aeromedically evacuated those killed to Kiwi base. As Chief of Defence Force, I remain proud of the work that we're doing in Afghanistan. Our mission and mandate is to provide the secure conditions which the other agencies and governments, NGOs and aid workers can operate effectively, helping to improve the lot of ordinary Afghanistans and to support the local community. Those ongoing projects are testimony to the success of the PRT. We can now take some questions if you have them.
Lance Corporal Baker was the first female combat casualty in New Zealand?
The first since the Vietnam War. We've had a nurse killed in the Vietnam War, and there were females also killed in the Second World War.
What can you do now in that area to beef things up, essentially? Because clearly what you've got here has some vulnerability.
For quite some time we've been working to change our style of operation in response to the improved IED capability. Disruption of IED teams, preventing them to be able to assemble their weapons, train, disrupting the supply routes is the style of operation that we are doing. This is the difficulty of when the insurgents have their safe havens in the Tarawa-Bafik area. And so our style of operation is to continue gathering the intelligence, to build a bigger picture of that network and to be able to disrupt it, as well as to improve the protection of our patrols through increased capabilities to detect IEDs, to disarm, and to learn our lessons every time an IED is exploded or found about the conditions, the capabilities of those, and to see whether it changes their tactics. So it's a constant evolution of our approach to counter the threat, which is also growing, and also countering their developing tactics.
Will you get rid of Humvees up in that region though? Because my understanding is we're on very few nations still patrolling.
We still use Humvees because there are places in that northern eastern area that the light armoured vehicles can't go, and the mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles are needed elsewhere where there are far higher levels of threat in Afghanistan. So the Humvees, which are still an armoured protected vehicle, are certainly better than unarmoured vehicles to operate around the area. We are very much aware of the limitations of them, but the terrain, particularly further to the west, where the Humvees will normally operate, is more benign, but it's just a matter of the mobility through the restricted roads, the steeper roads, that the light armoured vehicles cannot operate on. So we're aware of the vulnerabilities, but this is the best of the choices we have.
In the last attack, you mentioned that there was an attempt to get one of the bomb makers during that last attack. Was he captured or killed, do you think, during that attack, or is he still out there and could be obviously responsible for this?
Yes, he's probably still out there. The team, the Tarawa-Bafik network that operates from us has got a number of people, so we're unsure of who we were able to strike in during that attack of a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, we're still trying to track that group and find out what damage we've done and what capability is still standing.
So he could be responsible for this?
It's probably likely that these IED devices had already been assembled by from 2 weeks ago when that first attack occurred.
Promise, you talk about wanting to leave early, or talking about early 2013. What's the point of staying now with these mounting casualties?
Well, I think the first thing we've got to acknowledge is over the last decade, New Zealand has been engaged in Afghanistan, starting back in 2001 with the SAS, but since 2003 in Bamyan. And there's no question those thousands now of New Zealand soldiers that have gone through Bamyan in that period from 2003 to 2012 have made a huge difference to the lives of people who live in Bamyan. We are, if you like, in the final phase of that as we now start to transition out. And the government's been very conscious of making sure that our transition is as professional as the work that we've undertaken in the 9 years that we've been in Bamyan. The exact timing of the transition, therefore, in New Zealand's exit has been a matter of debate, if you like, and negotiation with our partners up there. But for some time it's looked possible and likely that will take place in the early part of 2013. That final decision will probably be made in the next couple of weeks. In terms of the argument of should we simply cut and run and leave this afternoon, that is neither practical nor, I would argue, sensible, nor is it the right thing to do. The practicalities are that even if we made the decision today to embark on that course, it would take about as long as it's going to take for us to transition out under an orderly and professional approach. We have 145 people there, we have 3 bases, we have a huge amount of equipment, we need to secure those exit routes. So it's just not as simple as clicking our fingers and taking our people out. But secondly, we've lost 10 very brave New Zealanders up there we don't honour their service and their lives and commitment and the ultimate sacrifice that they pay by simply running out of Afghanistan, doing the last bit of our work there in an unprofessional manner. I think New Zealanders are proud of the way that our military people serve and the professionalism that they have in theatre wherever they go in the world. And I think we owe it to all of those people who have served there and for those 10 that lost their lives and their families that we do a proper job of our exit. There's no question we're coming home, and I think there's probably no question now we're coming home on the fastest time path that is possible, but we can't move quicker than we are and do it in a professional way.
Have we doing what we thought we were going to be doing now, though? I mean, it's more of a combat role now than it has been a reconstruction role for the last couple of years.
No, I mean, the CDF can answer that question, but effectively a large part of what our people are doing is providing support for the humanitarian aid effort that's there, and that will also need to come out when our military people come out. We're now trying to train, if you like, certain parts of military capability so that when transition takes place, the Afghan people can provide as much security as they practically can for their own people, and so that the work that we've done in development of schools and hospitals and economic activity, the fruits of that can be enjoyed by the Afghan people for a long period to come. So nothing has changed, I think, in terms of that really. What has changed is that the environment for a number of years now has been more hostile.
Are you going to send some kind of backup over there because of this? Do you have to relook at that?
Well, the CDF can probably answer that question more fully, but I can give you the political response to that, which is that on an ongoing basis, the Minister of Defence constantly talks to the CDF about New Zealand's capability and about whether we have all of the capability in theatre to provide the maximum security we can, notwithstanding that we're operating in a war zone. We, from time to time, make minor changes, some that we talk publicly about and some that we don't. As a result of the loss of Rory Malone and Crowley Durham, we made some changes, and that included sending a specialist IED team last week as well. We'll obviously review the situation again as a result of what's happened overnight, and we'll listen to any recommendations that the CDF might have. But the top level advice that he's been providing the government has been that while some very specialist capability might make sense, it's at the margins and it's small. He's not of the view that dispatching the SAS back to Afghanistan in a combat role would actually provide a greater level of security for our people. We are of the view that our partners provide that capability, and that capability is there if we need it. It might be that we provide again a bit more logistics or planning support from our SAS people, but not a combat capability as we did in Kabul in recent times.
So you would send some over in another role, is that what you're saying, or not?
We could. The CDF might come and ask us for a small number of people on the planning side, but I don't think that we've had no suggestion that it makes sense to send a combat capability.
Okay, just clear this up. Are you sending a small team to plan, a small team of SAS over there as a result of this to do some planning or not?
That might be a recommendation from the CDF. We haven't got that yet, but in further discussions we've had, that's a possibility, but not a return to the SAS as New Zealanders would understand.
With the Special Forces circumstances in Afghanistan, there are plenty of Special Forces operatives, the shooters, who can actually go and do tasks out there. What is needed, and where, even while we had forces there, that was the crucial element was getting enough information about the insurgents, detailed information, so we could act precisely, reducing or minimising collateral damage or civilian casualties, and so it actually required a lot of intelligence input into it, as well as planning input into it. So the circumstances hasn't changed. There are plenty of Special Forces operatives who can tap into all the other enablers to allow them to act where we can add value potentially as specialist intelligence gathering, the knowledge of the network in our area, and then the planning for that particular operation. And those are the things that we are concentrating on, improving our ability to provide that.
What is the defence? Why do you think that Bamiyan is becoming more insecure?
One of the issues was that it was one of the first tranches of provinces that was declared to be independent for the transition. And the Taliban have been making statements to say, we'll show you that no part of Afghanistan is safe. So it really is the tall poppy syndrome of we will target those areas that are being held up as being examples of successful transition. There are also the fact that for a long time we have been able to counter the insurgents, coupled with a lot more successful, a lot more experienced people operating in the area. They now have more experienced people that can move into our area and provide that strong.
Why are they getting in there? Why are those more experienced people getting in there and where they're coming from?
They're coming from areas further south, in the Wardak province, moving up into the Talawabafik area. As the Wardak province gains experience, gains larger size elements, they are moving up. They're able to loan people into areas where success has not been able to be achieved. So that their prioritisation comes from the Bamiyan province. They want to discredit because we are seen as being a very successful transition.
Chief Jones, just on the incident itself, were there just 3 people in that one Humvee? Was anybody else injured, or did anybody else escape from that Humvee?
All 3 people, so there were 3 in that Humvee, all 3 were killed immediately.
How many in the total convoy?
A patrol has 12 people, 4 vehicles, it's no secret, and so 3 people in each vehicle.
And do you think it was the Taliban that's responsible?
The network that operates in our area can be tracked down to the Taliban network that operates, that has its leadership based out of Pakistan, and so it's Taliban who are claiming success for the success of this particular group.
And do you think that your remaining troops and the bases are secure given the losses that you've sustained?
This is a war zone, it's a conflict zone. We know that that group also has other IEDs around there, so every day there is danger of more IED attacks. And certainly about a month and a half ago there was a spate of attacks in the area. So we're conscious that it's not a one-off event, that this is a dangerous area. This group that we're operating against has higher capabilities. So any of those attacks could occur at any time.
Do you believe they would have survived if they'd been in LAV?
No. The size of this explosion would have destroyed an LAV.
Can you tell us more about the IED, how it was detonated, and if you know what type of explosives were used?
At this stage, until we can examine that scene, we don't have any information. And we normally would not release that type of information as it's useful for us in our intelligence jigsaw puzzle we're piecing together of the account.
Can you give us
Will you
any
change the
more
nature of your
personal
patrols now?
information about those? Can you give us any more personal information about those three soldiers and their active status?
The information we have is that both Corporal Luke Tamatia and Lance Corporal Jacinda Baker have partners. There are no partners involved with Private Richard Harris. Luke Tamatia has a partner is an ex-military person but now has left, and Jacinda Baker's partner remains in the military.
Including children?
Jacinda Baker, there are complications with children, so at this stage, can I please put a plea to the media, please make no statement to that.
Where were the 3 soldiers originally from?
Luke Tamatia's parents come from Kawarau. Jacinda Baker is Christchurch, and Richard Harris's parents come from Pukekohe.
What are the complications, sorry, for children?
That's personal to the family, so at this stage I'd rather not comment.
Is there any sort of vehicle that would have been available that might have meant their survival?
No.
Have the troops begun patrolling for Bakeland?
Not yet.
That specialist IED team that you mentioned, where did they come from?
We have an IED capability here in New Zealand, which is part of our domestic response, but their expertise can be applied over in Afghanistan.
Where in New Zealand are they based?
I don't know where these individuals came from. They probably have been brought from all of our locations rather than stripped one particular location.
Have they diffused any bombs, or did the team diffuse any other roadside bombs?
In the past they have, over the last couple of months they have identified them, but not in the immediate couple of days.
And was there another device found near where the first device slowed?
At this stage, we're not releasing any information about the site. So.
How would you describe what our troops are doing there?
The transition that's occurred over the last 2 years has meant that we are focusing more on the problem areas in the northeast. When we first went in there, we were doing both the aid programs, the liaison with the local communities, as well as providing security and training of the police force. As over the years more non-government aid, more foreign aid programs, more commercialised aid programs have come in, we've stepped away from that. But there aren't Afghan military and there aren't very proficient Afghan police in the area, so we've had to remain shouldering most of the security burden. When we transitioned the province as part of its phase 1, 80% of the province was handed over to Afghan police control, but we needed to retain the ability to support and train the police in the northeast. So over the last year, we have moved more into the security role in the northeast, and that's a mixture of patrolling with the police, so to support their arrest warrants, training them how to do police-style operations, both police and the NDS, but also still doing some of that community liaison because the aid programs and the aid work isn't in that area because of the security.
I suppose what I'm saying, do you think the public perceives it as a bit more benign, that reconstruction sounds safer than security?
Yeah, that's the name, but that's the totality of the program. And the military is only one aspect of the provincial reconstruction team. It's now led by a foreign affairs civilian, and so the total goal of the provincial reconstruction team is to continue to create the conditions that allow reconstruction, redevelopment, the improvement of the government expertise in those areas to occur. What the military provides is the security aspect, the logistics support to the entire package, as well as the assisting of the training of the police to raise their own capability.
Could you just explain to New Zealanders who are perhaps a bit curious as to why we can't leave faster, the logistics that are involved with getting out of somewhere like where you are? I mean, why it takes weeks, months to do that and not, it can't be done quickly?
Mainly due to the capacity of the roads, but also we've had over, since 2003, been putting in our facilities, our specialist gear and equipment that operates in that area. And so it is a mixture of the capacity for us to dismantle that gear. Some of it we're going to leave behind for Afghani police or other provincial or sub-district government. As much as we can, we do that to minimise the footprint. But it just takes time to dismantle that, process the machinery, the equipment, the installations that we've done, and move them back on that single road as the factory.
Does the weather play a part in terms of the seasons?
Yes.
So what's the earliest that has been considered about coming out of that?
We are looking at the first half of next year. A large part of those timings will be dictated by the need for us to stay for some of the aid programs that are going on. So that's the first quarter to first half of the year is the time.
Do you still send a full rotation in October when this one finishes?
The next rotation is going to be a mixture of the logistic troops that start packing up as well as the force protection groups to provide the convoy escorts, continue training the police while we're there, providing the logistic support, the internal logistic support, the cooks and suppliers to continue to operate. So it will be roughly the same size.
This early part of next year time frame, has that just been firmed up since the death of the previous two officers?
No, we've been negotiating and looking at those timetables as soon as we had our indication of the decision to withdraw, and that's the advice we've been providing the government and negotiating over those times, and all of the factors that contribute to that for quite some time.
In terms of women serving, how many do we have in Afghanistan? What sort of roles do they play? And is New Zealand unique in having them on the front line and such?
No, what do you mean? The women?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have the statistics here, so let me just find that page. No, first of all, no, we're not unique in having women on the front line. A lot of the European countries are putting women in the front line because of the roles that we do with community engagement, having women there to be able to interact with children, with other women in here, in the Islamic society becomes quite important. So all of the Western militaries and even some of the non-Western militaries have females engaged on the front line doing their operational tasking. So some of the figures here, we've got 10 females in Bamiyan, and another 2 in the Bagram Air Force Base in the National Support Element. Across the Defence Force, women make up 16% of the regular force, 21% in the Navy, 13 in the Army and 17 in the Air Force. So, and in the operational deployment, we're going to have a sizable amount of females in our operational areas. And we consider that to be normal, routine, and exactly where we want to be.
What roles are they predominantly?
No, she was the medic.
Sometimes the medic was the driver as well.
Sometimes,
yeah, but she wasn't driving.
Not as I understand.
So who was driving?
The driver of that patrol was Richard Harris.
Do we have to prepare ourselves for more casualties before we finish there?
As I said before, casualties are possible any day in Afghanistan, and the group that we're operating against is very proficient, and we know that they have other IED devices and are aggressively trying to hunt us down. So this is one of the issues that the Prime Minister was talking about. We went there to achieve certain objectives, to be able to invest as a country that has moral principles into that, to help them pull themselves out of the mud. That's one of the costs of having principles, or a nation that holds to its principles, and principles are therefore when it's tough.
So have
Yes, it's quite possible.
So have we achieved what we set out to, and is Afghanistan a safer place from this 10-year war?
Afghanistan's a safer place for 10-year-old girls to go to school. It's a safer place for the Hazarans in our area to be able to practice Shia Muslim skills rather than be oppressed by other parts of society. So, yeah, we've made a difference, and we can be proud of what we've achieved since 2003, the 10 years it will be since we've first been.
Has it been as successful as...
we leave?
Sorry, there were a number of questions.
Will not remain safe.
Months ago, I think 3 KB soldiers were killed there, and now 3 more. What the value New Zealand should keep the KB soldiers there, still keep the soldiers there?
Sorry, is your question, should we continue to keep them?
Yeah, I wonder just what the value New Zealand should still keep the KB soldiers in the country.
Well, I mean, we are in the final phase of activities in Afghanistan. As a country, we took the view, as part of a UN-mandated mission, to be involved in trying to ensure that Al-Qaeda couldn't use Afghanistan as an operating base. And when we made that commitment in terms of the provincial reconstruction team in 2003, we did so fully in the knowledge, I think, that there would be a period of time where we would be engaged. And I think that's probably been in line with the period of time we've got now. So it's a very difficult time, but it's one that we're working our way through.
Lieutenant General, can you tell me, do our vehicles have remote disabling technology on them?
Sorry?
Do our vehicles have remote disabling technology on them right now?
I won't go into the specifics of what we have, but we have as good equipment on our stuff as the rest of coalition forces in the world.
We also spoke about the importance of having women in Afghanistan, especially in Islamic cultures. Can you elaborate on that? Why is that?
Primarily because then we can actually we're there to make a difference in society, to actually change a lot of the views, to be able to help them develop education, to be able to focus on the medical support so that that's there available for all parts of society. To do that, we need to be able to engage with and talk with males, females, children and so on. And so women in that role are very effective. They are part of that team of engagement that we want to have. And we are here to really influence and support the developing culture, community, society parts, and to allow better equality, even within the Islamic constraints. And we're not putting New Zealand Western values on it, but we're allowing them to develop and certainly encouraging the opportunities for all.
And those 10 women in Bamiyan, what are their roles?
A variety of roles, some of them medics, some of them communicators, some of them logistics supporting here, but every patrol has females on there to allow them to come.
When will the bodies be returned to New Zealand, and have any decisions been made about funeral search?
We are still confirming the withdrawal routes. The Australians have once again very kindly offered to provide aircraft to bring the bodies back to Australia, and we can then pick them up from there. So I do want to publicly thank the Australian Defence Force and Australia as a country for the continuing support that they give us in our time of need and tragedy here. We're expecting them to come back towards the end of the week, and depending on the time taken for coroner investigation, that will then dictate the time for any commemoration service we have. But I will say that that will be dependent on the family's needs and desires, and we build our requirements around that. So at this stage, we're still talking with the families about what their personal needs are and how we can accommodate a commemorative service.
Prime Minister,
Sorry, we had it.
You mentioned earlier that there were elements of population within Bamiyan that are safer now than what they were before we got there. How safe do you think they're going to be after we leave?
That is the question that we're constantly ask ourselves. The longer we have, the more time we have to be able to prepare the police and train the police, the better that security is going to be. Afghanistan will never be a Western-style democracy, but we have actually trained the police in good, responsible, ethical police standards, given them the courage and the commitment and the technical skills to be able to do their tasks. So yes, it's still going to be safer after we leave. Is it going to be exactly the same? No. It might drop a bit, but it's certainly going to be better than if we weren't there, or if we don't invest time in training them.
For these latest attacks, the troops there must be under a fair amount of psychological pressure. Are you taking any specific steps to help with that?
Yes, we are. We are very conscious of the pressure that they go under, so a lot of our preparation for operations does involve that psychological preparedness for that. We actually have a team up there at the moment who is supporting the provincial reconstruction team, and particularly those patrols who were involved in the attack of 2 weeks ago. And so we are constantly attuned to the pressure and providing them support.
And how much pressure are they under at the moment? Are they feeling it?
Yes, they are. I have not had a chance to speak to them this time because of the short time the commander went north to Ramiro, so he's out of communications from me so far, but I intend to talk to him this afternoon.
You said that one of the deceased partners is in the military. Were they also in Afghanistan? Will they be coming back from wherever they are, or
they are still back here in New Zealand?
are they still here in New Zealand?
Is New Zealand involved in any way in actively pursuing the new bomb maker that Teddy mentioned?
The pursuit of the bomb maker is primarily a police responsibility, and we are supporting the Afghan police in being able to track down, get the information, and any time that they do have an arrest warrant, we will support them. That depends on where the person is. If he's in Paralabafik, then that's that local police that's going to be required for it. Once we can start operating over there, then it becomes a question of are we able to support them as they go over. So yes, we're actively supporting them, but ultimately it's a police responsibility to disrupt and to make those arrests.
So you don't see any need for perhaps SAs or someone like that to be there to assist?
Possibly one of the actions we may need to take is a strike, but as we've talked about further, the ISAF Special Forces will be the ones who don't take that. We might be contributing intelligence and some planning support for that, depending on how that intelligence or how that support's provided.
You said you deployed another IED team. Were they in the convoy?
No.
Have they arrived yet?
Yes, but they're being integrated into their patrols now.
And how many other IED specialist teams are there? Apart from that other one?
The IED specialist teams will be mainly focused on the light armoured vehicle-based patrols that are operating constantly in those dangerous zones. The Hummer-based patrols normally operate further west, out of those dangerous areas. So the IED priority is more geographically in the area that we're talking about, not just to attach to the front.
Prime Minister, the Labor Party was quite quick today to come out and suggest that you should be moving as fast as possible to get out. Is it reasonable, given the terrible toll for the public, for politicians to be having a debate now about how quickly we can get out?
Well, look, I think the reality is that 4.5 million New Zealanders will today be mourning the loss of these 3 brave soldiers, and they'll be reflecting on the loss of 5 soldiers in 2 weeks, and be asking obvious questions about the price New Zealand is having to pay for its contribution to the Afghan effort. So I understand that, but the practicalities of what we're dealing with is that we are part of a large contingent of nations who have been working in Afghanistan for nearly a decade to try and provide a safer operating environment, not only just for that country, but that we are globally safer from the risks of global terrorism. And so from New Zealand's point of view, of course we want to bring our men and women home, and we want to take them out of harm's way, but there are both the practical considerations of how long it takes to dismantle that operation, and the CDF's given us some view of that. But secondly, we are a professional country. We are admired around the world for what we do, and the way that we operate, the quality of our people, the way that we engage with the Australians and the Americans and the Canadians and the Norwegians and countries all around the world. And I think that the families of those that lost their loved ones would be shocked if we somehow just abandoned our operation there and ran for the door. I think they would expect us to do the job professionally. And yes, we need to make that the shortest time frame that we can now, logistically, but we have to do it with our partners. And if we don't, then the message that we send to the rest of all of Afghanistan is that it's time to run for the exit. And if we do that, then the thousands of people that have lost their lives have been in vain. And I just don't think that reflects the values and principles that underpin New Zealand.
Is that a hard call for you to make, though, given the risks that still remain, the dangers of this happening again?
Yeah, and every time I get a phone call from the Minister of Defence or the CDF about this, it's a gut-wrenching experience. And I want our boys and girls to come home and be safe, and it's awful that we've lost them, but we're in this now, and we've been in it for a long period of time, and we've just got to make that exit in a professional and considered way. We'll do it as fast as we can, do it in the way that protects our people as best we can. I've said to the CDF, you need to continue to give government advice and whatever other resources that might help our people up there, and he continually looks at that situation. But there is no fast way out. We can't click our fingers and put our people on a plane tomorrow afternoon. It cannot and will not work. We just need to see that through now. And I think we knew that to honour the people that lost them.
Have you and your officials been in touch with the Hungarian government since your last comments?
Well, I don't think our people have, but I know our military people are working alongside the Hungarians in that more now hostile